Hey, there we are. Cool.
Stripping my beard here.
Yeah. John made an interesting discovery, so while he investigates, let me welcome you all to Talking Heads, episode 286, your once-weekly live show for the latest in beer and tech news. I'm Jeff.
I'm John.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining on this Wednesday night or in podcast form over on Anchor.fm or wherever your favorite podcasts are found. If you've never seen the show before, we talk beer, we talk tech, we talk games, pop culture, entertainment, usually some Star Trek, and we do have some Star Trek news tonight.
We do.
All super chats are right on the air, so long as they will not permanently demonetize the channel. But I will urge you, if you feel like giving a super chat more than a couple of bucks, go to craftcomputing.store, pick yourself up a coaster, a rocks glass, some whiskey stones. We have some fantastic merch, and that actually helps out the channel way more than a $5 or $10 super chat would. Seriously, just go do that. Anyway, let's see, what else do we got that I normally do? Oh, we do drink alcohol on the show, and if you're drinking along with us, alcoholic or not, sorry, there's a new rhythm to it. Let us know in the chat, and we'll give some early show shoutouts as we go along. Last but not least, if you'd like to take part in the super secret chat and the even more super secret after party, think about joining the Patreon. Link is also down in the video description. As a bonus, you'll get exclusive access to the Discord server, where you can chat with myself, John, Rhett, Steve, all the hosts from Talking Heads, and join the awesome community that hangs out over there. Need merch messages. I will actually be working on that in the near future. Kind of similar to what Linus does with WAN Show. I kind of want like, hey, so and so bought merch, and I kind of want that to start taking the place of super chats, because it really does help out a lot more than super chats, because YouTube takes 35% from every super chat. So if you drop $10, I'm only getting $7. Whereas if you drop $10 in merch, I get the $10 in revenue, and YouTube doesn't. So let's do that instead from now on. Can we all just agree?
Yep.
Tell you what, if you buy merch tonight, at me in the chat, just at Craft Computing, hey, picked up a coaster, and I'll read whatever comment you want. We'll do that.
There you go.
On your honor tonight. So, anyway, how's it going, John?
It's good. It's been a rough few weeks at work and in life in general.
Yeah. I know you like wrapped up beer diet, and then all of a sudden life comes at you fast, as they say. Yeah. And it's been basically one thing after another. How are you? So right after I wrapped that up in March,
I took 5 days off. Like, all right, that was fine. I'll edit the video. I'll shoot it and edit it later. It's cool. No biggie. And work just slams me and then usually I edit during lunchtime, and work and life in general, I need to go shopping for this. I gotta go pick up something for my kid for school.
Yeah.
No fault. Every day, back to back to back. That was 4 to 5 weeks in a row. About 2 weeks ago then, I was like, okay, great. I'm gonna go. I was about 3 weeks ago, I was all right, I'm gonna start my routine again. The following day, which was a Thursday, I twist and sprained my ankle getting into my car.
Oh gosh.
All things. And it was nothing. I just got in at a weird angle and rotated my leg, my ankle, and it popped. I was and didn't realize how bad it was till the following day. And then it was basically bedridden.
Yeah.
Don't move. Elevated for 3 days.
Yeah.
And then it was okay, I'm fine. I got my brace on. I'm gonna go do some farm work.
Yeah.
I'll just ride the tractor. I'm not gonna walk on anything. I'm just gonna be up there. Everything's growing great for 3 hours, and that last final, I'm gonna step off here, just wrong angle.
Yeah.
Pretty much inflamed it again.
Yep.
And hurt my knee. And it was so I went and bought knee braces, ankle braces. Just was not a fun time.
Yeah. Oof. Well, I don't know if you've ever known me in the accident-prone sections of my life. I think I've been on crutches once since you and I have been friends, but I own my own walking boot and my own crutches and things like it's not an unusual occurrence, but it's been an occurrence that hasn't happened in quite some time. But yeah, no, I've spent a significant amount of my adult life on and it's never been like a serious injury. Like I've hairline fractured my ankle gosh, right out of high school, maybe 19, 20 years old. And other than that, it's just been like sprains and bumps and bruises and you know, really deep contusions and something like that. Yeah. But I'm the one who tends to get like massively high ankle sprains instead of just breaking your ankle and getting it over with. Yeah. And so, yeah, I've been in walking boots for, 8 weeks at a time and things like that. And they're like, man, you should have just broken it because that's way easier to fix. And I'm like, I'll keep that in mind next time.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. I'll take a sledgehammer next time. I'll break it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Exactly.
So, I figured out what it was. It's Block 15's IPA.
Okay, interesting.
So it's just their regular can.
Yeah.
So,
that's funny.
All right.
All right. Well, speaking of the can art that you were defacing there, what are we drinking tonight?
Well, I'm not drinking what I just showed you. That just happened to be the can underneath. And
right.
But I am drinking something from Block 15. And this always catches my eye is when I see this style. And it's Block 15's Charmed Life Irish Style Red Ale. And I always pick up a red ale whenever I find a new one that I've never tried.
Yes.
So I'm going to be trying that. Even though it comes in 5%, I think it's like 30 or 40 IBUs. I still love a good Irish red ale.
Yes. Yeah, and Block 15, definitely one of the Northwest premier hoppy reds that are out there. And in fact, John and I were just talking before the show. They actually just introduced 2 variants of this beer. I happen to have the other 4-pack, which is their dry Irish stout. And fantastic. So looking forward to what you think of that one. I have from 10 Barrel the OG Wheat. So 10 Barrel, just about a month or so ago, started doing, I think they called it their throwback 12-pack. And it is some of their, massively successful standards that they made between 10 and 15 years ago. And so this is one of them. This is a wheat IPA. 7%, 70 IBU, originally released 2013. And that entire pack has just been awesome. And I think I picked up the 12-pack for something like $14, so like $1.25 a bottle. And they're nothing to like write home about. You're not going to go on there and rate, 4.5 out of 5 on Untapped or whatever. But solid beers. And
it's what you want in your fridge when you're just like, I just want a beer.
It's exactly right. Yeah, this is what I seek out when I'm seeking out just a beer to drink. So, as good as the, barrel-aged imperial stouts and all that are, you can't just down one of those after mowing the lawn. At least, not every day.
Yeah, well, you don't mow the lawn every day, Jeff. So
you don't. That's right. Exactly. Some days you need a lawnmower beer. Some days you need it. I just finished the lawn beer. There we go. So I've been adjusting John's audio.
Test.
Yeah.
Test.
So there we go. I just turned him up.
How's that?
Even a little more. So please.
All right. Can anyone hear me now?
Level-wise, he's peaking literally exactly where I am on the view meter on
All
OBS.
right. Yep. So there we go. So you heard the two of us right there, back to back.
So I'm looking at the meter, and we're both at -3. We're both hitting and tapping right there. Like, it's right where it should be. So if you guys are still complaining, shut up. There we go. Okay. Yeah, some people are saying better. We kept getting better and then fix it. And then, it's better now. Oh, fix it. I have been. Yeah. What do you want? I'm not going to crank him. Like, this is my show, damn it.
All right, we got a solid now. If anything, I'll
just start doing this.
There you go. Yeah, just swallow the mic, why don't you?
All right. Switch microphone. I think it got unplugged. Oh, no, there it goes.
You're good. You're good.
All right, yeah,
whatever it is, don't mess with it now. They're saying it's good now. Anyway, we do have a couple beers in the chat. Let's see. Michael's got a Victory Berry Monkey Fruited Sour Tripel, 9.5%.
Ooh.
That sounds wonderful, actually, on a night like tonight. I saw a couple more. Where did they go?
Yeah, I got early on. Cody Evans' computer is pouring himself a nice rum and Coke. Captain Spice with a Coke Zero.
That's not a bad combo. I do like a good Captain Spiced. What I've been going for lately is it Captain's? Who makes the Black Heart? The Black Heart spiced rum.
Oh.
Is that a Bacardi? No, it's just Blackheart.
No, it's Blackheart.
Yeah, it's just Blackheart.
Tattoo girl.
Yeah. No, Blackheart has been fantastic for me in spiced rums lately. Like I've been really digging on that flavor combo. So yeah, look up Blackheart if you haven't done that yet. Who else we got?
I got Sean's having a Lagunitas Island Beach Tropical IPA.
Another fantastic, fruity, vibrant beer.
Let's see. Got Diet Pepsi. Jason's having a Diet Pepsi. I thought I did see a few other ones.
Hey, Shellback's in chat. Hello, Travis. How's it going? Cracks open a Zevia Cola. This sucks. Yes. Good to see you in the chat, my friend. Let's see. Tech Geek's drinking an orange Fanta. And yeah. And Green Protagonist enjoying some dihydrogen monoxide over chilled dihydrogen monoxide in my lovely custom laser etched, totally not LTT water bottle. # Discord exclusive. Yes. Zeus is drinking a Vietnamese coffee coffee boba of all things. There you go. I actually just had an iced coffee myself before the show because being a parent of 3, I woke up at 1:30 this morning and like clockwork, like every 45 minutes, 1, 2, 3. It's like, okay, I'm up. This is what today will be.
Oh, that was the other thing. Last week, my son, 2 days in a row, 3 a.m., waking up, asking for dad, won't go to bed for at least an hour. And I was just like,
Good times, good times. Anyway, let's go ahead and get this show on the road. Starting with RX 7600 reviews are now live. Much to the chagrin of a lot of GPU reviewers who were kind of blindsided with a 0-hour price change after videos had already been cut and benchmarked and opinions had been formed. Not exactly the way to endear yourself, although a price cut is still a price cut. But Radeon RX 7600 review is out. Another mid-tier graphics card. This one clocking in at $269 officially. And was originally supposed to come out at $299 or $329. I can't exactly remember which.
Yeah, I think it said $299.
Yeah.
Or I think it was $329. Then they said $299.
And then they said $269.
And then Intel released theirs, and they were like, "Oh, watch us!" Like a couple days prior.
Right. Exactly.
Or Nvidia, not Intel. Sorry.
Yeah. Anyway. Mid-tier graphics cards starting to come back, starting to, we're finally back into the 200s. I'd really like to see us get back into the 100s for some graphics cards. But hey, at least the 600 series cards are not $600 anymore. Like, there is a little bit of a reprieve from the previous couple years. But are we getting the things that we should be getting? Or has the market demand exceeded what is being delivered? There's a lot to unpack with performance metrics around the 7600. Obviously, it is far and away better than what we had been seeing price to performance wise from the 3060 series of cards. In fact, left the 3060 and 3060 Ti in the dust in most cases. Most cases, I'll touch on that. You know, and is a nice return to an affordable price point. Like, this is where most people shop for their graphics cards at. This is why the GTX 1060 and whatnot was the premier graphics card on Steam hardware surveys. Still is in most cases, because it's $240 to $280. Like, this is where people can afford to spend their money at. Not everyone has 4090 money or 4070 money or 4060 money. So it is nice to see, you know, competition kind of returning to this space, especially with Intel sitting right there at, you know, $290 to $350 for their A770 card. And that was a card that benchmarked surprisingly well, with some driver performance tweaks being made over the last year or so. But RX 7600 and this last week, the 4060 Ti, both launched to kind of meh receptions. And I believe Hardware Unboxed put it most accurately. He tweeted out, large, you know, full scope of GPU reviews over the last year. 4090 smiley face. Everything else got 3 poo emojis. and that is kind of the case, because it seems to be a lot of performance at the high end and nothing else for anyone else. No meaningful improvements from anything else. And in fact, there are instances of the 6650 XT, the last generation card, which this one should handily replace, beating it in some benchmarks, beating the new card in some benchmarks. We've got instances of the 4060 Ti being introduced, and while it's definitely an upgrade from, say, the 2060 and 2060 Super, having a cut down 128-bit bus for your memory means that bandwidth intensive applications, especially professional applications or games that rely on some modern features like resizable bar, not performing as well, especially as the 8GB buffer runs out of room. And so kind of to bring us back around is we're yet again getting a $250, $300 graphics card with 8GB or potentially even less of video memory, when some of the higher end modern 1080p titles, especially ports that come from consoles which have 10GB and 16GB of unified memory between both the Xbox Series 1X and the PS5, they're expecting more at this point in time. And 8GB, sure, like if you're upgrading from a 1080, the 7600 or the 4060 Ti, probably pretty solid performance upgrades for you. But the 1080 also had 8GB of video memory and was a dominant 1080p and 1440p player in its day 7 years ago. But
no,
we need more memory today. We really do. And I've thought so many times about trying to do a video on this subject, and saying, is the outcry accurate? Like, do we actually need 8GB of video memory? Should we expect mid-range 60 series cards to play every single game at 1080p ultra settings at above 60 FPS? And should we expect that the video memory that comes on those cards is enough to play 1080p at ultra settings across every game? Or are our expectations for performance unreasonable? Should we be holding devs to the fire to say, number one, reduce file size, number two, reduce texture size, maybe give us some install options for people that aren't going to play these games at 4K ultra settings, you know, the Fallout 4s and the, you know, games like that of the universe that require you to install 4K texture packs, and so you're installing 120 gigabytes worth of game when you're going to be playing it on a Steam Deck. You know, there's so much that's going into modern game performance, and the higher end you get in specs, the more things you have to keep in mind, and who's being realistic and who's not, or are both sides being unrealistic?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to unpack even in just that statement of I agree. Honestly, actually, I've only been recently thinking this, or I just read an article and that made me start thinking of this, is what I meant. Was, and I'm sure you've had it. I'm sure you picked up the latest Zelda Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, I was literally playing that 5 minutes before we started. So
yeah, so
I can't put the damn thing down.
Oh, it's. I mean, when I get a chance to play it, I play it. Usually, I only get about 2 hours a night, and then I end up like I'm literally like drifting asleep, still playing it.
Yeah, no, that's what I did last night before I got woken up at 1:30, and yeah, it was. I played from 7:30. I started playing at 7:30. Put the kids to bed at 8:15. Came back to my room and played until 9:30 until I was literally like I'm passing out. Like there's nothing left.
But what I like is, okay, the Switch is not, obviously it's on the tablet itself. I think it's what, 7? Is it 10? It's 720.
No, 720p.
I think.
Yeah,
720. Okay, it still looks phenomenal. Even when I transfer it to my screen, visually I can still understand, and it still takes my breath away on a lot of scenes.
Yeah.
Yes, I would prefer it to be a little bit better texture. 1440 would be fantastic looking. You know, you can upscale this. This would be great. But the gameplay is what I'm more in love with.
Yeah.
And these AAA titles that, like you're saying, require you to install like 20 to 40 to 120 gigs of texture packages.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but how good's the game then? To where it's like, yes, it's visually great and I'm entertained by this game, but my gosh, it's taking up so much. And it seems that the developers, like you were saying, to lower the size down, like,
or give you install options.
Yeah,
Steam has a free DLC pack where you could say, are you installing this on a Steam Deck? We'll give you the 720p texture package. It'll run butter smooth. You'll get 60 FPS plus in any mode, any TDP mode. And those who want to play this on desktop, give us 4K textures or 1080 textures or 720p textures, and
whatever. Make
the game playable across a litany of devices. Make it scale. And that's one option that we just don't have. Gaming has been wedged so far into a one peg fits all, one size fits all, and that's just not the modern landscape of gaming. We've got console games that have upwards of 16 gigabytes of unified memory. We have gaming PCs which have 8 gigabytes of physical memory and 8 gigabytes of video memory, not unified, not resizable bar in a lot of budget use cases, trying to all play on the same equal playing field. Meanwhile, you've got people with 4090s and 3090s with 24 gigabytes of VRAM, unified, resizable bar enabled, PCs with 64 gigs of DDR5 or 8 gigs of DDR4. It's not a level playing field. And so why are we installing the same copy of the same game with the same settings on every single system? And why are we expecting what is the 5th card down in the series, the $250 little brother to the $1,000 card? Is it realistic for us as consumers to expect 1080p ultra settings, everything unlocked, 60 FPS, no compromises?
Well, yeah, and I agree. This was going to be my second point. It should be, and I think you should expect that, because I feel that these mid-range cards are the introduction to a lot of people for that company and into gaming and into switching from, you know, AMD to NVIDIA, or Intel, whenever they start doing something a little bit more. But it's like, okay, I want to get into gaming. This other brand's got this really good card. Honestly, in all honesty, this card would be great 12 gigs. If it just came standard with 12 gigs,
right,
that would have probably fixed everything that everyone was complaining about. And the fact that it didn't, it still comes with 8 gigs. The only other thing I really did like about was what we hit on earlier. The price kept going down because of competition. And like you hit earlier, card prices are going down, and the mid-range cards are finally hitting back to that $250, $260, what you're looking for, your first kind of build, or you're upgrading from your 1080p or 1080, you know, but are you getting that much more for your 1080? And it should be at least 12 gigs.
right.
12 gigs should be the standard from now on. This 8 gigs of DDR6.
It really should be, because like I mentioned, the consoles have that. And a lot of games, I'm sorry, PC gamers, you're still not the dominant race. You're still not the dominant platform. Consoles are the accessible, in everyone's homes. Everyone from 6 years old to 80 years old can plug one into a TV and make it work. Not everyone has a gaming PC. Not everyone games on PC. There are avenues of that opening up. The Steam Deck is a great example of you know, no compromises AAA gameplay on the go. There's obviously a very healthy PC market, or market to develop games for on the PC, but if you're a developer and you have to choose a platform, you're probably going to choose a console if you want to guarantee returns. And so part of it comes down to a business decision. And if you're developing for a platform which has 16 gigs of RAM and you want to stand out among a field of AAA games, you might as well take advantage of the texture packs. But the double-edged sword of that is it's affecting the low-end GPU market in a negative way, because so many developers are now, you know, utilizing that memory space. And why wouldn't you? So, yeah, it's... the whole market is in such a weird position right now. And I keep making this parallel. This feels very much like the gigahertz race days of the march to 1 gigahertz, which AMD hit just before I think it was December 99. AMD released the first gigahertz processor, and it's this weird thing where for so many years, for the last 10 years, we've been getting spoon-fed 7% performance gains year over year, platform after platform, revision after revision. And it wasn't necessarily anything nefarious or malicious from developers or from hardware manufacturers, for the most part. Obviously, we had Intel resting on their laurels, being the industry leader and not having any competition in the space for, you know, the better part of 8 years or so. You could look to NVIDIA and kind of say the same kind of thing. Even though we've had flashes in the pan from AMD, it's only been the last really 2 years that we've gotten legitimate competition top to bottom in the product stack. And now you have Intel entering in as well with pretty solid offerings at 250 and 350. But all of these areas are progressing at vastly different rates in different directions. And we haven't really seen that as an industry since that 2000 or 1999 to 2003, where there were so many competing standards for graphics APIs. You've got Glide with Voodoo, you've got DirectX, you've got OpenGL, and all of these manufacturers are fighting for their share of the pie, and they want you to buy their card and their product. And so you add, 3DFX cards being the dominant player in that industry for forever because of their open API and their easy to port compatibility to consoles of the day and PCs of the day. But there was a discrepancy in how quickly some of those GPUs and some of those platforms aged themselves out, because it really was twice as fast every 18 months. And we're hitting that again. But the problem is we're including limitations based on trying to hit certain price points with certain performance specs. And with NVIDIA cutting the 4060 Ti from a 192-bit bus down to a 128, it is literally bottlenecking it in any memory performance or memory performant application. With the 7600 only including 8 gigabytes of RAM, it is hampering it in ways that even the 6650 XT or the 6700 XT were not hampered by. And it feels like if companies weren't just pinching that last penny on the bottom end of things, if they were willing to say, you know what, we're going to price this card aggressively and we're going to give it 12 gigs of RAM, which will cost us about an extra $12 per card. Now, obviously, there's engineering costs to make sure we have the memory bandwidth and bus speed and all that other stuff that goes into it, but that's all part of developing the card. But instead of saying we're going to make an 8 gigabyte card, let's make a chip to match it, if they just went, you know what, we're going to spend the extra $12 and then we're going to engineer a chip to use that amount of memory, you'd end up with a $300 card that would be much more performant and could be a solid recommendation for the next 2, 3, 4 years. What most people in the review space are seeing right now is, yeah, the 7600 and the 4060 Ti are good cards today. But what about next year?
Yeah.
Because in the past, it's been fine if you had a card that was good for today, because we weren't seeing that advances in memory utilization or CPU utilization or even GPU utilization for the last 5, 6, 7 years. But all of a sudden we are again. And the manufacturers are not growing with that demand. So,
yep.
But we had a lot of drama. Obviously, Jay's 2 Cents posted a video that was headed up by Phil and not well received by his audience. I did get a chance to watch that video, and I think it was a bit of an overreaction by his audience by Phil recommending the card as a good card. It does perform well. Does it have its issues? Absolutely it does. But my main thoughts as a reviewer is my problem so much with the reviews that came out of every single graphics card over the last year is, with the exception of the 4090, every one of them is hot garbage, and AMD, NVIDIA, Intel, you all need to go back to the drawing board and do better. That is one school of thought as a reviewer. It is my job to hold these companies accountable for the products that they're putting out and to demand greatness and the best that they can deliver to the consumer. And had they not taken X, Y, or Z shortcut, then the market in general and the consumer space would be in a better place. That's certainly one avenue that you can review a product from. There's the other avenue, which is usually the one that I come at it from, which is I always think of it more from a consumer standpoint. If I spent X money, would I be happy with the results of this product? And you can only review what's in front of you. You can you can't say, man, I wish the 4060 Ti had a 192-bit bus because, man, it would just be gangbusters better. I can't say that because it doesn't. And there's nothing that exists that does at that price point with the current generation Ada Lovelace chip and everything else. And so all you can do is you can look at the surrounding market and decide if it's a good value or not. Everything on the table, if you needed or were going to build a PC today and you had these 5 graphics cards in front of you, as a reviewer, it's disingenuous to say, don't buy any of them. They all suck. And that's kind of what all the reviewers are doing right now, is unless you're the 4090, you're hot garbage. And manufacturers are just taking advantage of you. From a reviewer standpoint, you're doing a disservice to your audience by not telling them, hey, this is the one you need to buy right now. It might not be the best that it could be, but it's the best that you're going to get right now.
Well, yeah, and at the same time, too, there's a lot more things to consider, and I agree that most, like when Jay does something, he does this every now and then. He'll talk about price point and other old things of, different areas. But I think it's also, as the consumer, where is he in his life, in his building his PC? Is he upgrading? Is he buying his first PC? What's his particular budget like and everything like that?
Yeah.
Is he coming from a 1080 Ti? And then he's like, I got to upgrade it, and I have $1,000 to spend to rebuild the whole brand new computer from case, power supply, RAM, processor, everything. That's a different thing than I already have the latest and greatest computer, and I just want to have the latest and greatest graphics card. So which one's that? Everyone's different, and so it's hard to say. It's like, again, I think this card could have been like good if it just had X. It's still a good card. It would have been better if it had X, but if you're upgrading from something else that's way worse, this is still actually a decent budget price point and probably within at least talking about. You should at least talk about this card. I'm not saying this is the card you should get, but it's something to talk about because it is very budget friendly. You can go and buy this and then upgrade something else. What if you only have 12 gigs of RAM in your computer, but you can hold 32?
What if you're building a PC for the first time? You don't care what the GTX 1080 did. You don't care what 2 generations or last generation of products did. You care about, hey, I want to build a gaming PC today. Which card should I buy? And right now the reviews are none of them. They all suck. Don't do it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
no,
well, I'm just going to go buy a PlayStation then.
Yeah, because it's all in one. It's built there, and it's okay. But I have to buy all these other parts, and that's really more what I think reviewers like yourself and other people, you especially, do talk about that stuff, and that's what I enjoy more about your content. And you and I mesh more about that type of stuff of like, what is the consumer in their area like, instead of this is just the latest greatest in specs and who cares, it's awesome. Yeah, but
unfortunately, I've also ran into in my own content getting slammed for having even a slightly nuanced take. I've brought this up before when I reviewed the 1650, and I didn't get the memo that I was supposed to hate NVIDIA for literally just trying to print money and take advantage of consumers. If you look at the previous generation card and the market around it, I went, it's not a bad offering, but only if you spend $150. That was my review. And I said it's probably the budget king because you can't buy a 1080, or a 1050, you can't buy a 1050 Ti. The 1060s or the 1660 is more expensive, and unless you're going to go buy a used 580 or something like that, it's probably the best you're going to get off the shelf right now. And I was lambasted for that take. And I actually, in the wake of these couple of news cycles of the 4060 Ti and the RX 7600, I went back and watched those videos again. I went back and watched my own work, and I still agree with my take, because one of my main points was everyone said, don't buy the 1650, go buy an RX 570 for $100 right now. Yeah. Well, if you go back and watch the RX 570 reviews, everyone goes, this is a stupid card that shouldn't exist. You either spend the $30 more and buy an RX 580, or you buy the previous generation NVIDIA, blah, 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 blah. And, well, the reason the 570 ended up being a good value 2 or 3 years later was because it existed and because it was being sold. And you're not necessarily going to win every single battle at the same time, at the same price point, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't, as a manufacturer, produce a card and hit a certain price point and hit a certain budget. And then not 6 months later, after I did the 1650 review, guess what? The crypto boom happened, and RX 570s were nowhere to be found. And suddenly the 1650 was the darling child of the budget builder, going like, man, if you can find one in stock for $199, it's a fantastic little gaming card. I wonder who said that in their initial review, which didn't just say NVIDIA hates you. And so I get so frustrated when context and availability and consumer getting into the mind of the consumer isn't a factor in a review. And it's not that those reviews are bad. And I've said this a number of times. I have great respect for Hardware Unboxed and Gamers Nexus and Linus Tech Tips and the Jay's 2 cents and the number of review channels who go through the processes of doing top to bottom, tier by tier reviews. The problem is when you standardize all of your reviews on a particular platform, you don't tell the full story. If I'm reviewing an RX 7600, no one who buys a 13900K is going to buy that card. That combination will never exist in the real world. No one's going to spend $700 on a CPU and then $250 on a gaming card and go, yeah, this is what I want with my system. Yeah. No, you're going to balance between CPU and GPU. So if you're going to spend $500 on a CPU, you're going to spend $500 on a GPU, which means you're going to be leaning more towards maybe a 4070, maybe a 6800 XT or 6900 XT if you're buying that 13900K. If you're buying an RX 7600, you're probably buying a 12500 or maybe a 13600 at the very most. And that's what your benchmarks need to be based around. Yep. So the consumer knows what they're going to get and if it's going to perform up to their expectations. At the end of the day, the consumer doesn't necessarily, it doesn't matter to the consumer what is the top end and what is the bottom end. What matters is I want to spend X amount of money and I want this performance level. Will this combination work? Yeah. And that's where reviews need to focus.
Someone was saying in the chat, it's like, well, I go and if it doesn't meet my performance, I go to the used market. Now, I like the used market too. Mm-hmm. That's something I look at. But if you're building your PC for the first time, you then have to have patience and a lot more patience instead of just being like, I can go to the store or online. Boom, ordered it. It's going to be here in 48 hours.
Not everyone wants to buy used.
Yeah, you don't know. And there's no guarantee of how good that equipment is used. If it was abused, what's going on? And then there's just that extra effort. It is extra effort finding it now, but that is the other thing. Hopefully this type of card, when there's a lot of these mid-tier budget cards out there, that usually does mean they're probably going to be in stock and around regular market price. Yeah. So yeah, I have the patience to go find used. That's me, but that's also because I'm experienced in doing this. And when I first came out, like, yeah, I bought a budget mid-tiered card. That's what I did. I spent, I think the total of my first build was like $500 for the tower, the RAM, the CPU and GPU. I was like, okay, this is what, and like Jeff said, I balanced between, okay, my CPU took priority. I did like a $50 hit, bought my GPU of that. And then RAM went next, and motherboard, then RAM. And then I probably should have spent more on the power supply and not gonna change.
We figured that out later.
Yeah, but it was like, that's it. It was like, this says it's 1,000. This is like, back then I was like, it's 500 watts, and that was a lot. It's like, it says it's that.
1,000 watt peak, 320 sustained.
It's like, you lift it out, it's like, this thing's light as a feather. It's still not coming down. 1,000 watts.
I'm amazed that has not exploded yet. I really am. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. Mike chimes in, $10. Thank you very much, Mike. Go buy yourself a coaster or some whiskey stones. Craftcomputing.store. I was extremely annoyed by all the reviews today that AMD was getting bashed for lowering the price of the 7600. WTF. Not that it was still a bad price, but for the fact that they lowered it. No, the reviewers, probably let some personal irritations get into the review process, as well they should. They need to let AMD know that changing the price 39 hours before the launch of a product, when you know darn well that on a Monday morning, our videos are already filmed, our benchmarks are already done, and our opinions have already been formed. And now you're going to lower the price upwards of $60 from when you gave us the cart to review to when we need to release that to the public. And if we release this information to the public and it's not reflective of the current MSRP, we're not doing our jobs right. So again, there's two standpoints to a reviewer. Are you there to hold AMD accountable for their business practices, for their manufacturing, for their designing, for their cost-cutting measures, and the things that you see unfit for making its hand in the wake of a consumer? Or are you there to tell the consumer what is the good value, what should you buy? Because the answer can't be nothing. And yeah. Yes, I would be very irritated too. In fact, in the 1650 review, I was irritated because we didn't get drivers until launch day. We didn't get drivers until the embargo was lifted. I got drivers the same time the card went live on Newegg, which was so incredibly frustrating. But I didn't let the behind the scenes, the administrative side of things, cloud my judgment on a product, because my job is to deliver the consumer information. I can talk to NVIDIA and AMD behind closed doors, and I can let them know I'm irritated. And, if frustrations boil over, sure, I'll air it to the public and we'll go from there. But again, what is my job as a reviewer? I always feel my job is to the consumer first and to the company second. Sometimes third and fourth. So anyway, this video does have a sponsor tonight, and of course, it is Linode. If you've ever thought about hosting your own services, hold on, let me figure out where my sponsor spot is. There it is. I got it. Today's episode of Talking Heads is brought to you by Linode. Hosting your own servers also means you get to host all your own problems, and even the most skilled network engineer will tell you you should decentralize your network. So why not host your services with Linode? If it runs on Linux, it'll run on Linode. That includes software for most of the tutorials on my channel, like how to run your own ad-blocking recursive DNS servers, VPN gateways, your own cloud-based Plex servers, and more. They offer shared CPU plans for as little as $5 per month and can scale as high as your needs go, whether it be virtualized hosting, dedicated enterprise GPUs, or NVMe block storage. Even if you do host your own servers, you can use Linode to keep a backup off-site. Because remember, RAID is not a backup. I was trying to read that line again. Linode is also expanding at light speed, with 12 new global data centers planned before the end of 2023. Visit linode.com/craftcomputing and get a $100 60-day credit just for signing up for a new account. That's linode.com/craftcomputing, and again, a huge thanks to Linode for sponsoring today's episode.
Cheers to Linode.
Cheers to Linode. And as it turns out, my beer's almost empty.
Oh. Well, you had a 12 ounce, I had a 16.
I did have a 12, and it's going to take me time to drink the next 16. So I think I'm going to get started on that. Seems like a great time to transition anyway. Let's see. Let me go and bring up a couple of the next stories. I should have been doing this while we were talking, and I just didn't. I only had the first article up. There we go. We got the next couple up here. All right. So this beer was sent over from John J. Thank you very much, John. Not you. Or you.
I know.
The other John.
The other one.
The East Coast John. The John with an H, because he's compensating, I'm sure. From Graysail Brewing of Rhode Island. It is the 11 Years 11 Ale. So there's the can for those who want to see it. Let's see. 11 years ago, we would have never dreamed that Gray Sail would become what it is today. We have you to thank for that. To show our appreciation, please enjoy this supersized version of our Captain's Daughter, which we've brought back from retirement. And I actually had a pint of the Captain's Daughter a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago. I think John sent me over a can of that. At 11.11%, it pays true homage to our first ever batch of beer brewed 11 years ago on 11/11/11. So 11 years ale from Gray Sail Brewing, Rhode Island. I have been looking forward to this for a long time.
11 years?
Not quite that. 11 years ago, I was pouring strawberries out of a bottle.
Apparently there was you saying it was the greatest version of beer that I have it on audio somewhere. Pretty sure. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
As the best 90 cents I ever spent.
Now, do you have the full voice library or just that clip?
I had so what it is.
Can you use the library again for that 90 cents or?
Okay. No, it's 90. I got a monthly subscription.
Okay.
And so I can clone anything.
Okay.
But it's 3,000 characters, so I get 3,000 characters a month. Or 30,000 characters. Sorry, 30,000 characters a month.
Wow.
30,000.
Wow.
Yeah, 30,000 characters a month.
Yeah.
But so every time you attempt as you're adjusting, that's part of your characters.
Yeah. So John did a deep fake voice of me saying that his strawberry blonde ale was the best ale that I'd ever had, and you should definitely go subscribe to Hops and Brews. Which the second part I don't disagree with. Go subscribe to Hops and Brews. Follow us on all of our social media. Yep. It's right down there. I was actually a little shocked at how easy that was. Now, obviously, there's a great amount of content of me and my voice and my inflections, and I was actually genuinely surprised at how good it came off. But it also had this air of I'm Jeff with Craft Computing, and Hops and Brews is my favorite YouTube channel on the Citadel. Like,
yeah. Well, actually, so the weird thing, I only had 2 examples of you. But yeah, you can't adjust like pauses, inflections, or anything. Like, if you want to do that, you have to do that in the script. And then again, too, that's more characters, and it's like, all right, I'm not paying premium price for this. I paid essentially $1.
Yeah,
and I was like, all right. I think it took about 4 or 5 tries. Yeah, I was like, that sounds good enough.
Yeah,
there we go. This is just meant for. It was pretty good. Here's a good laugh. Boom, go. worth the $1.
Yes. Novella cashed in a 33-month membership. Thank you very much. Surly Brewing Double Furious Whiskey Barrel Aged IPA. Holy God. 13.6%. Whiskey Barrel Aged IPA.
That's I have a bourbon one. I have a bourbon barrel aged double IPA. I don't have a whiskey barrel aged. That's pretty interesting. That's even more odd than a bourbon barrel aged IPA, and those are pretty odd.
Right. For those who don't know, bourbon barrel aged beers, typically they're stouts, but they can be things like
barley wines.
They're
big, heavier beers usually.
Typically, they're an MGP barrel, so they are whatever MGP made for a client to fulfill their need of bourbon in a particular flavor profile. They'll then sell those barrels because bourbon is a very strict definition of whiskey. It is a 51% or more corn mash that has been aged for 3 years or more in new American oak. And so you can only use the barrel once to age bourbon. once you've aged bourbon, you can sell that barrel on the secondary market, or use it for your own product, for other uses. And one of the most common is to sell the barrel, and then people will barrel age their beers in it, and whatnot. But typically, you'll end up with bourbon barrel aged, because that's the majority of what MGP produces as one of the pretty much the nation's largest bourbon producer. So seeing whiskey, seeing that as a qualifier means American whiskey, which means mix of all 3 grains and not necessarily verified of an age statement, and like you get into the weeds of the wording, and all we have to go by is whiskey. And so I'm assuming American whiskey, which could be a mix of wheat, barley, rye, and corn in any amount. So yeah, interesting. Novella says it's the 15th anniversary celebration of the Surly Furious IPA. Holy crap. That's a good IPA. Double Furious whiskey barrel aged. Novella, why don't I have one of those? I'm just going to come out and say it.
Let's see. Yeah, okay, that's not it. The only one I can find, which that's what it looks like, Double Furious. There's only 3 check-ins on Untapped of this.
That's crazy.
So, 26 minutes ago, 4 hours ago, yesterday.
Okay. Allison checks in and says Scotch is regularly aged in used sherry casks. Actually, one of the main agers of Scotch, because Scotch has to be aged in a used barrel. And so bourbon in the US has to be aged in charred new American oak for at least 3 years. If it says bourbon on the label, that's the requirement. And 51% or more corn mash. But what do you do with the barrels when you're done? Well, you can sell them to barrel-aged beers or wines or rums or whatever else. Actually, Scotland and Ireland buy a fair number of those because Irish whiskey and Scotch have to be aged in used charred barrels.
Yep.
So one of the funniest things is people go, well, Scotch is the original whiskey. Yeah, but it's aged in bourbon anymore.
Yeah. Now, maybe old Scotch was sherry, but I don't know if it is now.
Yeah.
Because now it is probably cheaper per barrel, and so maybe a cheaper Scotch.
Definitely still is. Sherry casks are definitely still used in the production of Scotch, oftentimes to get certain flavor profiles out. But because it's used barrel, you can use whatever mix of barrels you want and then mix your end product. So we've got 2 barrels of a used sherry, we've got one or two of bourbon, we've got 1 or 2 of this and a couple of this, and then you mix the end batch together, and you get a blended Scotch that Johnny Walker would be proud of. So that's how that process works.
I would.
Novella Hub says he has one set aside for me. John J says Novella Hub sent me one, and I'm having it now also. So good. Yeah, I've had Furious a couple of different times.
Furious, but
phenomenal, like amazingly good IPA. Double Furious whiskey barrel. Oh. Yeah,
I was wrong. It was just a double entry on Untapped. So, but still much higher rating now.
Okay, yeah.
So, still only about 1,300 check-ins. So, still not a whole lot, but
okay, yeah. And Vince says my arcade game didn't change from last week. Yeah, it's still R-Type. So, I'll make sure to get it changed next time around. R-Type is such an awesome game, though. It absolutely is. I love R-Type. Anyway, let's go ahead and keep this show rolling. Since we've only covered one news story so far, although that's kind of the way we roll. We put the big ones first, and then we kind of go faster and faster and faster.
Yep.
So 28 years after its inception, Windows is finally getting native RAR support. For sake, what took this long?
Well, people aren't compressing it like that anymore. They're like, oh, now we'll do it.
Right. Who uses RAR? I use 7-zip. Like there's so many better compression algorithms now. Why are we just now getting RAR support? But the funny yeah.
Go ahead.
Actually, you go ahead. I was gonna.
I was just gonna, and it's apparently, yeah, it's not even in like, it's only the latest Windows too. It's not like, oh, we're gonna roll this out in Windows 10 and all our nope.
Yeah,
it's gotta have the latest version, and only that. It's like, oh, come on. Who cares?
Yeah. So the nice thing about this particular implementation is they are using LibreZip. Is that the name of the? They're basically adding in an open source project that does RAR compression, decompression, zip, unzip. It will also actually support RPMs, tarballs, 7-zips, all that kind of stuff. So we are getting other native support in there as well. We have added Microsoft must have gotten fed up with rushing their RAR operations, and in a blog post said, in addition, we have added native support for additional archive formats such as tar, 7-zip, RAR, GZ, and many others using the libarchive. Okay, yeah, it's the LibreArchive open source project. You can get improved performance of archive functionality during compression on Windows. Now, I'm really curious to see where this goes and how it works. Because I've been using 7-zip for years, and I do really, really like 7-zip, both from the GUI standpoint, the user interface standpoint, of being able to just natively browse and file, but also the Windows integration utility of being able to zip, unzip, compress, whatever from a 7-zip context menu. I use that quite a bit with different downloads, and so yeah, awesome to see this. So RAR is obviously the big one that is going to get the headlines, but honestly, the 7-zip and tarball are probably the 1A and 1B to that discussion. And it's about time.
Yeah, I think the WinRAR though is what, like, it just makes the headline. It makes the article, type of a thing. It's the shocking. I can say, oh, it dates back to this far. Right. They finally did it. Yeah. I no longer have to pay for that license, or even though I got it for free.
Yeah.
Type of a thing. Goes the ways of that. My 40-day free trial.
Yeah. I do have a brick coming to the new Craft Computing Studio, and I think it says I paid for WinRAR. I'm pretty sure that's one of the ones I received.
At least that's good. That's original. I like that.
Yeah. So I have so many good bricks coming to the new studio. For those who didn't watch that video, we are in the process of going through architecturally and then hopefully very soon breaking ground on putting together a new Craft Computing Studios, Craft Computing 3.0, and we're selling bricks on craftcomputing.store. If you want to help support the new studio and give us actually room to breathe and work and full workshop and everything else, you can buy a brick and support us. And there will be an option for everyone who buys a brick later on to receive a physical copy of your brick. It won't be a full brick. It'll be
like a cover,
not even a cover. It'll
like a
be
plaque,
kind of a plaque, but it will appear the way it appears on my wall. And so it'll either have a stone texture or a gold texture. Supplies are limited. Go buy now. Craftcomputing.store.
Get bricked.
Get yourself a rocks glass while you're there too.
All right, I'm gonna open up my second beer since my other one was done.
All right.
Oregon Classic comes out once a year, but it's always a different variant. It's the best, probably one of the best collaborations. Usually, it's one of the ones looking forward to. Surprisingly, this year I did not hear about it coming out, but that is Fort George's three-way IPA. That's where Fort George in Astoria, Oregon, partners with 2 other breweries. Each one supplies one item of the beer, water or malt, yeast, and hops. And so I don't even know what breweries are in this one.
Yeah, no, it's normally one of the ones I look forward to, and you mentioned it before the show, and it was news to me that it's out.
All right. I'm already going to look. Anchorage.
Oh, they collaborate
with Anchorage and Cellar Marker in Fort George. So Anchorage, yes.
Wow.
So, yeah, okay.
What's
glad
funny
I bought
is
2.
you were being before you go into it. You were being actually a little critical, going like, "I'm not looking forward to this. It's only 7%. Like normally three-way IPAs like 8.5 to 10. Like it's in that Imperial IPA range. This one's like flirting with like standard.
It's a standard IPA.
Yeah, and it's if you've been a fan of these big IPAs from Fort George, which they do have some phenomenal ones. There's Vortex at like 8.5%. There's they have so many good IPAs. I'm really disappointed that the fact that they're collaborating with Anchorage and it's not an 8.3.
I am. I mean, yeah, because if you go buy any Anchorage IPAs, I mean, they are just phenomenal IPAs. And I will say, I bet Anchorage did the hot profile because
I bet they did.
Aromatics. As soon as I was like, oh, that smells on the nose. Like, oh, that smells great. That smells great.
You can crack an Anchorage from here. In fact, John has cracked one from like 10 feet away. And I couldn't see the can. And I went, that's Anchorage. It is. Like, just...
That's pretty good, actually. That's pretty darn good. That's...
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's
gonna do some
reasonable.
Backtracking now, are we?
Yeah, you know what? That's that's solid. That's a solid beer. It's fruity. It's easy to drink. It's got a nice meatiness to it. There is body to it, but it's not. There's an oaty dryness definitely to it.
Yeah.
But that citrus, bubblegum candy, hop flavor is so bright, so fresh. It takes over. There's no bitterness.
Yeah.
I will say there's a weird
say,
yeasty flavor.
Okay. I will say, Fort George is definitely known for that bright, citrusy, bold, upfront IPA. And Fort George is known for more of the way in the back, resiny, oily, dank Northwest IPA styles. Putting those together, I'm actually not sure what to expect.
Yeah,
I just don't know.
This, like I said, and I social media wise, I heard nothing about this, and actually, the last time it was last year's, and so I didn't even know this was coming out. If I knew it was Anchorage, I would have been like,
first,
I gotta go after. I'm gonna go after this. We've been on Anchorage for a couple of years. I think we got a hold of it before like people took onto it, and it was
right.
like this is something you got to look out for. This is a brewery that's going to be, you know, nationally known very, very quickly.
This is the next Great Notion. This is the next, you know, Bells. This is
this is the next Alchemist or whatever. Yeah. So, but yeah, no, hops, amazing. You know, so I got nothing to complain about this beer. This was, other than the particular, I paid about with deposit $4, but really, if I went to a bar, $4 for a pint of this,
right?
That's fine.
Right,
that's fine.
Totally. I mean, the only better deal I've ever gotten is $4 for a Suge Knight. So,
yeah. And you barely remember that.
Oh, I remember the start of that night. I don't remember much after that.
Oh, you know what? What is it? And I don't know if you got time. We might want to make time though. Next weekend, I believe, is the start of the Oregon Brew Festival.
Oh, that's right.
It's like I think it's 3, 4, and or 2, 3, and 4 of June.
Unfortunately, I am in San Jose the 1st and 2nd. Unexpectedly, like, found out about it this morning. And it's like, oh, I guess I'm buying a plane ticket. All right, cool.
Yeah, 2nd through the 4th.
Okay, yeah, looking forward to that project. You and I need to do another beer vlog. It's been way too freaking long.
You know, even in general, just going to someplace, there was a maybe not beer. There is a bar in Portland, Viking themed meadery.
Remember, it was opening just prior to 2020, and we were planning on going and doing something.
We should go. That would be just a fun trip right there.
I think we need to do that.
That would be like just a day trip of like, or just in general, we could do a day trip of like, let's just brewery hop and find interesting stuff in general.
Mm-hmm.
That would just be a fun one too. Or get everyone going.
Yeah.
Actually, I saw Rhett. I was with Rhett this past weekend for like 2 days. I was like, Rhett, this is like the first time I've seen you physically in like a year.
Right. Yeah, since that Scottish fire.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay. It's weird, Rhett. Hey, how's it going? And so we had one of our friends, and Rhett's now his wife's cousin. So one of my best friends married Rhett's wife's cousin. Yeah. And so Rhett was doing the audio for it, which his brother-in-law was one of the groomsmen. Yeah. And that was an interesting night as a bachelor party. It was like a bunch of 38 to 45-year-olds being like, yeah.
What time is it? 9:30?
It was. We were like 12 o'clock. Oh, we're done. Yeah. We're done.
What's funny though is so my friend group, we have a lot of people my age, and so you know, elder 30s, lower 40s, couple in their early 30s, but we've also got a couple of my friends in, you know, their early 50s and whatnot, and there's always that one guy who's like 15 years older than everyone else who parties harder than all of the rest of you. There's always that one guy in the friend group, especially once you're like 40 years old. Like, is that guy still going?
Oh, well, that was the thing. We had a guy who was probably one of the older guys. Like, yeah, I live with my parents in the trailer out back. It's like, oh, you're that guy. You're that guy in the group today.
No, what's really funny is it's either the guy who still lives with his parents, or it's the guy who's owned his own business for the last 35 years, and is, you know, far and away one of the most well-off people that you know, and he can still out-party you. Like, and there is no middle ground.
Oh, yeah, probably because he's been, like, conditioning himself nonstop for 10, 15 years.
Right.
You know, he just never stopped because, like, I'm
drinks nothing but $200 whiskey every single night.
Yeah, and every night. It's just like, oh, man. Mm-hmm. No, yeah, it was still fun. It was mostly just, well, that was the thing. We went into the small town that he grew up with, And it ended up being like every bar we went to was like, oh, I went to high school with you, or yeah, we went, you know, blah blah blah. And so we started the night off with 6 people, and we ended with like 17.
I heard that every single stop that you guys made was like, oh, he's finally getting married.
Yeah, it was all that. You probably heard from Brett. It was just
cool.
Constantly. It was like, oh, okay. Every place we got to get a bigger table. Yeah. And then I was like, hey, they do karaoke. Let's stay here. And then, well, so actually the funniest part was the night there was a brand new Irish bar that opened up, and we're like, Irish bar. One of the groomsmen is part Irish. So he was like, oh, let's go there. We're going to, you know, we're thinking rowdy Irish bar. We walk in there, and this particular town is a small workers' town.
Yeah.
You know, nothing. And so we go in there, and it's downtown Portland style. The bartender has suspenders.
Oh, okay.
Slacks, twirly mustache. How you guys doing? All fancy whiskey cocktails. There's a guy in the corners smoking a pipe, reading a book with, you know, a top hat, or not a top hat, but, and it's just like,
I hate to say that's my scene, but holy crap, that's totally my scene.
It's like a cool, if we were like 3 guys, but it's like 16 of us. Let's do shots. Woo-hoo! It's like, yeah.
Jameson Red,
Yeah, exactly. It's like you look at their bar back, and all it is these Irish whiskey. Like, oh, I know those. That's a $50. That's a $60. That's $100. That's a $200. Where do you got for draft? All it was Guinness. That was the only thing on draft.
If I say the word round, I'm gonna have to take out a mortgage on my house.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so it's like, and then they were like, well, we own the tiki bar next door too, and they were like, okay, let's go there. And it was, you know, $3 tiki cocktails.
Yeah.
Like, one for everyone. Cheap dollar, you know, cheap French fries.
Sorry, the last 2 comments are insanely good. Queem says, yeah, I'm that guy. Not the parents' trailer. I'm the 6-figure, childless, 40-year-old with a motorcycle, full head of hair, and decent body guy. Yeah, no, there's that guy in all of your friend groups. Like,
oh yeah,
and he's 10 years older than all the rest of you. You don't know how you met, but it was probably he got to be friends with like one guy in your friend group because he needed a ride home at 2 a.m, and he's like, yeah, I'm totally sober, I could take it. And you're just lifelong friends from that point out. The next comment is, wow, expect Paul F. Tompkins to spin around on the bar stool next to you and greet you. For those who don't know who Paul F. Tompkins is, he's like a voice actor and comedian, but he looks like he's straight out of the 20s, and I don't mean this one. He's got like this mustache, like this gap in his teeth, but he's like, he's funny. Once you see him, amazingly funny comedian. One of my favorite bits by him is his job at the video rental store in like the early 90s, but they sold exclusively Betamax.
I think I have seen that one.
So good. Because he goes, no one was coming into the store to rent a Betamax movie. Betamax was long past its life and whatnot. So, but we required 2 people to close the store, and so we would take turns sleeping under the desk. So great.
Yeah. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun. It's fun to see Red again. Fun to have fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we got to do something.
We got to do that Viking bar finally.
The Viking bar would be super fun.
And what was the whiskey house we were going to go to too? Was it the Whiskey Library in Seattle?
We were going to do or was it the one in Portland? It was the one in Portland, but then there was that guy in Seattle who had the largest whiskey collection in the world, and he was going to open it. He opens it up for like one day a week or one day a month or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
And we were like, let's go down there. Let's drop like, you know, $500 each or whatever to combine and just see what that gets us.
Right. I'll take a train because there's no sobriety test to walk onto a train.
Exactly. That's fine. Oh, I've been to the train to Seattle. It's a fun trip.
The Cascade line. It's amazingly good.
No, and you can drink on it.
That's right. Keep the party going. Jameson Red!
Woo!
Yes. All right. I think we're done with local stories. Let's go ahead and move back into tech. HP. Little bit of hot water and controversy with some of their customers because they sent out a firmware update. Unbeknownst to most of their customers, just like pushed it over the air and went like, no, if your printer's connected to the internet, we'll just send you a firmware update. Cool, right? Turns out it bricked like 1 million printers. So the OfficeJet Pro 9020E and HP OfficeJet 810E series of printers are currently completely inoperable, showing only a blue screen and an error code as soon as they're turned on.
Yep. As soon as I saw this, I was like, we got some HP printers. I went and looked at all of the model numbers, like, wait a second, what do we got here?
Yeah. So yeah, no, most of the clients that I used to serve, we sold HP equipment. We did primarily HP printers, simply because there were no real limitations on like workstation or workgroup printers for third-party toner. It was fairly affordable to refill. And so instead of paying $100 per toner cartridge, you could pay $20 per toner cartridge and keep printers going for a long, long time, especially after HP introduced their universal driver. We as a company could support pretty much every desktop printer that they ever produced and just deploy that driver, and then whatever printer you print to, you're good to go. And so it was a fantastic solution. But apparently internet-connected smart printers with a brain of their own can't quite counteract HP trying to use their brain and pushing out a firmware update that bricks literally every printer in existence that applies that firmware update. Yeah, so 83C0000B is an ongoing issue at the moment, and HP is trying to do a lot of damage control, trying to figure out how to unbrick literally like 1 million printers.
Yeah, so if you have the the OfficeJet Pro 920E or 810E series, again, that there's probably a line within those different versions. You might want to go check your printer. So, again, why I went and checked all of mine, because I was like, that image does look like some of the interface. I'm not quite remembering what model number each one was.
Yeah. So. No, there's like a dozen model numbers, 9020E, 9022, the Pro 9025E, 2020 or 9020E Pro, 9025E all in one. Like it's a whole lineup of series of printers.
Yeah.
In both the 8000 and the 9000 series.
If you got 4 digits and it starts with a 9, 8 or 9, go check it.
Right. And it's not 25 years old, and they started reusing numbers, and it's not like an 8125 inkjet. Then yeah, you probably want to check. Although you probably already know. So
that's true. This next one, actually, this one I'm actually kind of looking forward to. Photoshop is, or Adobe, I should say, is doing some pretty cool stuff. In addition to Photoshop,
yes,
which they're adding some AI to Photoshop, similar to Midjourney and DALL-E. And yes, I think this is going to help. I was looking at some of the examples of this. I was like, this is actually going to help some of those like new people into photo editing
with Dexcom G7.
Editing.
Oh, come on, don't do that. I was trying to play the little video right there, and
an ad.
It's an ad, and there's no mute button. So I'm like, okay, I guess we won't show it off, because I watched it earlier and I'm like, it's actually kind of a cool video because it shows.
It is kind of, yeah, I got the same here too.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, Adobe is integrating DALL-E and Midjourney into Photoshop as a primary service. What this means is, remember when Photoshop 8, which later became known as CS, came out, which later became the Creative Suite, came out? and we got content aware fill. That is, you could select a piece of an image and say, I don't want to see that piece of the image anymore, and it would fill in the rest of it. That was using Adobe's in-house AI generative process algorithm to take other parts of the image and
scans it,
figure out how to parse together, like, oh, you want to remove this telephone pole from the desert scene. I know what a desert scene looks like, so I'm going to take the other parts of your desert scene and make the photo or make the telephone pole just vanish.
And instead of you taking the clone device and like
manually trying to do it and never matching color accurately and things like that, it would blend kind of everything together. And it did it literally lightning fast, even on the junkiest of computers, 15 years ago. It was magic. But this is going to get interesting because with the integration of Midjourney and DALL-E, that means that text prompts can say, I want to look at a source image and turn my image of this person into the stylization of the source image. Or I took this picture of person, but I want you to put them onto a beach in San Francisco. I want you to do this and so it's a combination of text prompt and image inference is going to, and it came out yesterday morning. This isn't like in theory. This is like, no, download the latest update. Go play with it now.
Yeah, no, as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, I'm going to go probably download it tomorrow and get it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sitting there, when I thought this, I was like, to me, like, I thought this is going to be excellent for people going into Photoshop. Photoshop, for a lot of people, is scary because once you first dive into it, all these tools, all these things, you don't know what you're doing, and it does take time. And you're like, I don't have time to watch this 7-minute YouTube video of just how to crop this particular person perfectly to blend it with this. This tool will do that for you. It's literally, can you take subject, blend with carnival black background, something like that. One of the video that you were showing was like a dog running on a bridge in some weird background. They're like, well, extend this background to be a forest background. Now let's make it raining. And then there was raining, and then there was a puddle where the puddle had the reflection of the dog already pre-built into the puddle because it put it in front of it. And it was all those things. And it was like, yes, this would take a professional a couple of hours to do.
Right.
And literally it took me just knowing how to type the right sentence, 1 or 2 times. So 1 to 2 minutes. And so I'm thinking, for people and I thought in the aspect of presenting a product, you take a shot of a product and then you put it on a flat mat and you're just like, look, I need this product to be in, if you took a coffee mug, steaming hot on your kitchen counter, you would probably, I see a coffee mug, let's steaming hot, kitchen counter, boom, there you go.
Yep.
And you just had your studio. You literally, there you go.
Yep.
How great is that?
Right.
Ta-da. And it's literally your product. It's not some AI generated, I can't put your text over this. That's great. I'm hoping it's as good as the example, because a lot of times the example, that's the professional. They trained it to do that example. Yes, exactly.
But Adobe, for as much criticism as I like to give Adobe, because man, are they rooted in a lot of their old ways. Man, are they rooted in licensing hell and old workflows and methodologies of what video and photo editors need today. Like, I'm as critical as anyone, especially when it comes to like hardware integration and everything else. But when Adobe comes out with a new feature, specifically like, content aware fill or smart transition in Premiere or automatic remix in Audition, man, they just freaking nail it every time. And so as critical as you want to be of Adobe, and I'm definitely first in line for that,
yeah,
you can't argue with the tool set when you get your hands on it.
Oh yeah, and my only critique is you do have to know how to play with it, and that's the thing that takes time. But that is any tool. But that's kind of why I do love playing with just AI stuff. Is I can just type, and if I can take my knowledge with Adobe and add it to AI to be all completely integrated at the exact same time, that's great. Although I do wonder this. Now, you talked about this in a previous video, and this might end up causing a rant or a discussion longer than we need to be. I did talk with a graphic artist and about AI generated material and it being monetized. And if you did take this and then Adobe used Dolly and I forget what was the other one. The other AI.
Midjourney.
Thank you. Is that still then, because if it's like 70% that of the image, can you still proprietize it as your individual image, if you know, type of a thing?
Me making a painting in the style of Monet is not infringing on the copyright of Monet.
No, I agree with that.
And so it's a slippery slope because a computer can turn out 30,000 Monets in 5 minutes that are completely unique, but 100% indicative of the style of Monet. And so, you know, a million monkeys in a room with typewriters will eventually turn out the full work of Shakespeare. Well, we're expediting that process and giving you a million monkeys in a room with typewriters. And that's kind of what AI is. It's not going to get it right every single time. Of course not. But all it needs to do is get it right once in that 30-minute period, and you can put a writer out of work. You can put an artist out of work.
Well, that's what I was talking with the writer or the artist, and because he was like, "Hey, do you want a logo?" And I was like, "Hey, I don't, but curious. How are you going to deal with AI generated logos?" And then I was like, "Here's 4 logos I just generated right now."
Yeah.
And he's like, "That's illegal. You can't do that." I was like, "No, it's not. It's completely legal.
Yeah.
There's no legal precedent. I mean, there's a suit going on right now, but it probably will fail. But there's no legal precedent. So I can do this, and henceforth, anything I grab right now will be fine. It's henceforth."
Now, what I would do if I were you, just to cover my legal basis, if you wanted to generate a logo for Hops and Brews or Craft Computing, or if I wanted to make artwork that I would later on sell,
put on a t-shirt,
is you use it as design inspiration, and then you create original works derivative of that.
Yeah.
And honestly, if I'm an artist and I'm worth my salt and I am really thinking future-proofing my work, why would I shun AI and go, it's just going to put me out of work? Make it work for you. Give it prompts that will give you ideas that you can iterate on and make better art with. And you know, I'm not one who agrees that all machines are going to put us out of work, but I'm also not one that doesn't see the other side of it of, man, the writing's on the wall from companies like IBM, Microsoft, Apple, that AI is going to put some people out of work. And that's not cool. And especially on the creative side of things, as a creator, as a maker, as a creative individual. So I've always been one to embrace new tool sets. And I think that's the best advice that I can give moving forward to any artist, writer, creative professional. If you don't embrace it, it's going to pass you by.
Well,
and do so at more and more expedient speeds.
Yes, I agree. It is now a tool. It's not something that'll take over. I think it will, like you said, take over some people's jobs. But I think what it's also going to do is that's the inverse. It's going to actually allow other people's businesses to increase faster. Is the thing. Is they're going to have easier access to items like, say, logos, that they're like, I can't afford a professional logo, so I'm just going to get this generic clip art and some free font. I'm going to throw this in there. Hey, boom.
I feel so called out right now.
Huh?
I said, I feel so called out right now. We're just going to take some generic clip art and a Creative Commons font. You shut up, sir.
Actually, I wasn't even thinking about that, but didn't you? You made your whatever. Hey, look at mine. It's the same thing.
Stealing from one is plagiarism. Stealing from many is creative and derivative.
Exactly. There we go. Yeah, it's
I will say I have licensed some artwork on for professional use on the channel. I do have licenses for many different pieces of artwork. There was definitely inspiration drawn from my logo, although my logo is a 100% creative look. The font you can go on and download. It's neuropolitical. Go download it now. It's license free for commercial use. I love the font because it's inspired by TNG's LCARs, and it's a great font. I use that font everywhere. The font that I use on this right here is called Akuda, and it's inspired by the LCARs font again on TNG DS9 Voyager. It's a phenomenal font. It's easy to read. It scales really well. It looks phenomenal, and you get the general idea without me infringing on anyone.
And you never have to hit shift or cap lock.
That's right, because it's just all caps.
It's all caps. So you're just like, I'll just type away.
Right.
It's fine.
Right.
I like that.
Caps lock was not on. This just looks like this. Like.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I use something similar for my videos. Like, I don't need cap lock. I'll just type. Anyways, let's keep moving on. Well, there was a story we probably should hit because it is in the title.
Yes. Apple. Right to repair. Let's dig in. Many third-party repair providers say that, quote, we are losing money being part of Apple's repair program and saying they cannot compete with the tech giants' internal pricing because their pricing for parts and service is so exorbitant that, people who want to replace a screen on an iPhone 12, they're not going to spend $900 at our shop. They're just going to buy the new iPhone for $1,000. Almost like it's by design by Apple to say no one wants to repair their devices.
Yep.
Which is exactly what I warned you about 12 months ago and every single day therein before and after. Apple is doing the absolute minimum to appease right-to-repair opponents and lull into a false sense of security right-to-repair advocates to not create an environment where right to repair becomes legislation. They're saying we offer we offer our parts to third parties. Now there's a program you have to get in, you have to apply for the program, you have to order our tools and whatnot to make sure it's done to our standards because and yeah, weird as it may seem, consumers don't want to spend Apple tax prices when we know goddamn well that LCDs are $35 and that batteries are $20 and that these other, like, yeah, $50 for a battery repair, that's all well and good. $200 for a battery repair? It's $15 in lithium ion. Like, let's be really real about this.
Well, and in all honesty, too, there's that, and it's a 6-month wait period probably for these third-party people. And it's like,
also, repair shops can't hold back stock on hand. It is a 1-to-1 core replacement strategy. That is, if you bring us a car battery, if you want the actual price, you have to bring us your car battery so we can recycle it. And so companies can't do same-day turnaround to repair a screen or a charger or a speaker or a haptic motor or anything else that comes with this. It's a one-off process that Apple is happy to delay 2, 3, 4 weeks. So you go, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to buy an iPhone 14 and call it a day. Because it's only $300 more.
Well, even that, it's even cheaper to go just to the Apple iStore and just be like, well, it's like $20 more, but I'll get it back in 6 days.
Or I'll get it back same day and they'll just hand me a new phone.
Or that,
They'll hand me the same model phone and I pay them $120 and call it good.
Yeah, it's like, I need my phone, my laptop, whatever. Yeah, this is crap. I mean, like, what are you talking about? We're compliant. You can do this. And if you can't buy third-party things, but through us, we have to make sure.
By the way, we're also still seizing all potential replacement parts at the border. Any imports, anything that says it's for an iPhone, no, screw that. We're going to seize it as a copyright infringement, even though we're allowed to make replacement parts for parts that we didn't produce by reverse engineering. That is a 100% completely legitimate business practice to reverse engineer a product and produce your own. To be compatible with an OEM product. That's how we get PC clones. That's how we get all of these other things that pervaded the 70s, 80s, and 90s when it comes to technology.
Yep.
And Apple likes to say they are so entirely green. The greenest thing is not buying a new thing.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh, they'll promote just hand in your old one and we'll recycle it for you. How are they recycling? And they're not going to recycle it.
They're not recycling it. That is such BS from the outset. They're taking that phone, they're shipping it to China. They are having someone repair it for about $1.75 plus $5 in raw material. They're then going to resell that phone for $700. That's their game. That's the whole.
Weren't they said to be? Oh God, what? I saw some article, like some used store, and Apple was like one of the highest stores on there for used product because they're just reselling their own used stuff at a high market price. I don't know, but yeah, totally, exactly. Their recycle is like, no, we know this processor, this screen. The basic hardware inside is still good. The computing parts of it is still good. Someone broke the screen. Well, the screen's $50 for us. And yeah, let's go ship it off somewhere else.
But I'm Microsoft, and so we're going to glue the touch interface to the LCD itself so as to not be removable. Now it's a $400 part. Oh, and by the way, you can't remove the glass from the front of the case because we also adhered that with some glue that is only known to God and his disciples, and cannot be removed by any means of man. And so congrats on your Surface Book, but I hope you never need a CMOS replacement.
Yeah. No. The ultra-thinness of these items are fantastic. The assholeness of these companies are not. Of the way they're treating these products. And
I would take a phone that's a 1/4 inch thicker if it lasted a full 2 days. Instead of a day and a quarter.
So that was the thing. I went and I bought my in-laws last Christmas new phones. They needed new phones. Yeah. And I was like, well, look, they're not smartphone people. I mean, my mother-in-law was still using a flip phone.
Right.
Just because. And but grandchildren needed pictures. They're babysitting more. They want to take pictures.
Yeah.
And text messages for them, so the old style of chatting, not really working too well. So we were like, okay, what's the best way? And it was, you can just go buy the off-brand, the cheap brand Galaxy, and it's $150, $199 a phone.
Yep.
And hardware-wise, 15% less, and it comes in a plastic case instead of a metal case. And honestly, I was sitting there thinking, I was like, the camera is basically the same, processor is very comparable. And internet, as far as speed-wise, that's the exact same. I'm finding I'm buying cases for mine because I've already cracked my metal case, and it's $300 to replace it. And it's like, I should have gotten the plastic one and been like, I don't give a crap about this thing.
Yeah.
The next phone I probably will get will probably just be like the off-brand version of whatever the high-end. I'll spend the $200 instead of the $1,000.
I've been a huge proponent of buying previous generation Pixel A's. And so I've had a Pixel 2a, I've had a Pixel 3a, and this is now my Pixel 5a. And I bought it when the 7 came out because I could get it for like $299.
Yeah.
And I didn't buy it because I needed it. I bought it because may or may not have nuked my last phone. So new pants are awesome because instead of cargos, they're coming with like a phone pocket that's like dedicated for your phone, and so it's a little bit lower down in your thigh, and it's a fantastic place to keep your phone. And one day I didn't check that pocket, and one day my wife didn't check that pocket when she put my pants into the washer, and it went through the full wash and dry cycle, and it came out a dead Pixel 3a.
I've had that.
Yeah, like I used to be like a once every 24 months, I'm gonna get like the newest, latest, greatest, fastest phone, blah 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 blah, and eventually it's like, you know what, the camera on this one is good enough. It takes the pictures that I need. I have a nicer camera when I want to take better pictures. It surfs the web. It's a big enough screen. I can text message everyone. It does everything on it. Why do I need to spend $1,400?
Yeah, I'm not going to shoot a movie on this phone.
Right. I don't care if my new iPhone shoots ProRes. I just want to shoot a 20-second 1080p clip of my son running down the hallway. Yeah,
exactly. It's like I need something. I want to point and shoot really quick for family memories. Right. That's all I want in the thing, and I want to take decent photos. But it doesn't need to be perfect. I just like, oh, I remember that. That was great. I don't care if my son's a little blurry. And I was like, I remember, you know, in my mind, like, oh, this is what it looked like, but this reminds me of that.
Right.
Like, that's great. That's all I care about. I was like, oh, cloud syncs or whatever.
What is the best camera ever? What is the best camera of all time?
The one I could throw away.
The one you have on you.
Yes.
Because that's the one that will capture something.
Yes.
You could have the nicest camera in the world. If it... Now, obviously, there are limitations to that. You need a camera that's good enough to capture in most situations. But it's like, yeah, I've got an A7 IV, I've got an A7 III, I've got a couple other cameras that are point and shoot wonders. But the Pixel 5a, freaking good camera. And for 85% of the situations, even in low light or no light or portrait or whatever else, gets the job done. And the best camera is the one that you have accessible. And
yeah.
I don't need all the other stuff. And we're getting a little bit into the weeds here, but smartphones no longer wow us because all of the things that they do are now just being refined. And unfortunately, if you want to be on the bleeding edge, it's still $1,400, but your $200 smartphone that you can go pick up anywhere, no contract, blah, 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 it's a pretty freaking good phone. And yeah. Tech Geek sends over $5. I don't care if my son's a little blurry. Honestly, John's son's a little blurry all of the time.
Yes, he's just running around. It's like, I got candy.
It's not what I meant.
I know.
John's son's a little blurry for a litany of reasons, but least of which is the smartphone camera. No,
well, you gotta remember though, it's blurry and to the angle. It's at an angle.
Yeah, you gotta get that lean to it, right?
You gotta get that lean to it.
I have pictures that I still adore that I took on my Palm 650 Trio, and are they good pictures? Hell no. Did you ever take pictures of the Moto Razr? But you know what? It's what we had. And I still have a picture of my wife off of my old Droid.
Mm-hmm. And I still use it, I think, as my wife's, because I was like, I still love it.
Yeah.
You know, we were dating, and I think it's still the picture I use. It's still the picture I use for her profile in my phone.
My wife's profile picture is from a trip to San Francisco in 2010 with an iPhone 3. Yeah. That's her profile pic.
And it's like, that's the picture I remember my wife dating, and I was like, oh, I want to keep that one. And I was like, it's turned out great. And it was probably a 3 megapixel camera, but I was like, I like it.
Yeah. And yeah, it's kind of like the Well, actually, in stark contrast to the GPU market, the only competition is at the top end. But everything below it, still pretty darn good. And yeah, there are issues with some phones in the $400 price range. Yeah, there's not all the latest, greatest features. Oh, they reused a smartphone GPU from 2021. Oh, for heaven's sakes, let me clutch my pearls really quick. Like, it's still okay, and it does the job, and yeah. But the bigger question is, why are people in the Apple repair program literally losing money being in the Apple repair program? Oh, it's maybe because Apple disingenuously created an Apple repair program in which they will sell people overpriced parts in the guise of abiding by right to repair. Like, look, you can take your cell phone anywhere you want. People chose not to. Like, it's not my fault they didn't want to spend $900 on an iPhone 10 screen when they can get an iPhone 14 for, $899.
Yep.
Oh, if only that were the actual case. Maybe if Apple sold the screen at fair market price, which was probably, I don't know, $130, and then you tack on the $100 markup to actually repair it. Oh no, you need this, $3,000 Apple press to properly remove and re-adhere the screen, and torque drivers for. Do you know how many cell phone repairs I've done in my life? I'm not young, and I was always the guy who did cell phone repairs. And anymore, I refuse to do them. But even I've probably repaired upwards of like 700 cell phones for friends, family, colleagues, friends of friends, family of friends of friends. Hey, I heard this one guy's really good at repairing iPhone 4 screens. God damn. Like, I was that guy. And it's like, yeah, send it over. And I did it. But you know what I used every single time? The $25 repair kit from Amazon. That was the touch LCD that you could replace, and it was a couple of pentalobe screws and 3 ribbon cables, and off you go. And you know what? It was easy. And you know what? It was good money, because I could charge another $25 for labor, because it only took me like 10 minutes to replace an iPhone 4 screen. And so I made $25. Someone on Amazon made $25. Apple didn't make jack, and we didn't have to buy another phone.
Yep. And I was like, here, I'll give you your phone. Give me your phone. I'll make it last another 4 years, $100. Basically, that's what these stores are looking for. That's what most people are looking for. But yeah, Apple and other places don't want that, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
no, because they make their money on upselling or making bank on the repair process. Trust me, Apple is not the cost of repair, or the cost of the part of an iPhone 14 screen is not $900. The cost of an iPhone screen is probably in the neighborhood of like $50, and then when you add the Apple tax, it's like $125. Like, that's what Apple's into it. Entirely. And that's with markups along every single step in the manufacturing process. That's Apple paying to have it produced by Foxconn and everyone else, and getting it shipped, procured, delivered, and then tipping your delivery guy $35. Like, that's what that is. There's no reason that a $1,400 phone needs a $900 screen replacement. There's no reason that a $1,400 phone needs a battery that's $300. If you add up all the parts of repairing a phone, if you bought everything from scratch, it should not be 6 times the cost of the phone. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah. Do you want to do this Intel one?
We got the Intel one. Yeah.
And then it was the last one that I thought we wanted to at least hit on.
You're right. It is 757.
Yeah. So.
Intel Meteor Lake 16-core and 14 CPU benchmarks have now surfaced, and yes, holy crap, they're just as good as you thought they would be. About 50% faster than Raptor Lake.
It is a meteor.
Can we just say, holy crap, like, Moore's Law is alive and well again, and I am here for it. Could not be more happy. Let's see.
3.7 base clock.
Yeah. Road to VR. Apple invites extended reality, that is virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality outlets to Worldwide Developer Conference keynote for the first time.
One, yeah.
Basically confirming the existence that Apple is entering the VR AR headset market and will unveil something of the sort.
I thought we saw this earlier on, and their price point, at least what was rumored, was extremely high. I hope not.
I've heard everything from $400 to $1,400. So
yeah, I heard like the $1,000 range.
I heard about 1,000 is the most recent, but either way, we'll find out like 10 days from now. I think it's June 3rd or 4th or something like that.
Yep.
Ahead of grilling season, Purdue launches custom first of its kind beer can, chicken beer.
So yeah, if you've ever grilled, everyone knows you go buy a light lager beer and you put the can up the butt of the chicken and you grill it like that. Beer can chicken beer. Well, Purdue, who makes their own frozen or their chicken line, made their own beer spice with the perfect spices for beer can chicken.
I'm assuming you open the beer can and then like insert and then cook, or what?
So what you're supposed to do is...
I've never heard of beer can chicken beer.
Have you never heard of... So you take you de-gut the chicken, you take a light beer,
process. Okay,
and you just open the beer can, shove it up in there, and put it in the grill.
Okay.
And just let it heat. And so the hops, the aromatics, and the moisture of the beer keep it moist. But whatever flavor of the beer is, infuses because it steams and boils out.
Right. Okay.
And so, but it always keeps, if you ever have breast meat, it's always dry.
Yeah.
Well, this keeps it moist because there's a constant liquid, what is it called? Base to it.
I may be just completely off base, but I'm a white guy from the Northwest where we have like health and safety standards.
Yeah, I don't know how you've never done this. This is like very popular.
Nope. Never even heard of it.
So anyways, though, they made
a beer guy, as a whiskey, like I've heard of just about every concoction of like beer, insert this blank end result, wonderfulness, chicken, waffles, what like I've done every I've never heard shove a beer can up the anus of a chicken and smoke it.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's some of the best chicken you'll ever have, and you'll love it. But so this particular beer has chicken seasoning, rosemary, thyme, and pink peppercorn infused with the beer, and this is an alcoholic beverage that coming at 5.5%.
One
and
for
it's
you,
perfect.
one for a homie.
Yeah, well, they do recommend that you pour half of the beer out for tasting with the chicken, and just so happens to be that yours truly just bought a 6-pack, and it should be reviewed hopefully within the next month.
John, do you have a smoker? Tell me you have a smoker.
I do have a smoker.
Okay.
I have a smoker. It's not a Traeger. I have a traditional smoker.
That's okay. I've got a Traeger. I'll bring it over.
No, Steve has a Traeger too. I like my little smoker. We don't smoke. We usually do like we'll cut the chicken in half.
Yeah.
Or turkey. We'll do like turkey breasts and stuff like that.
I think we need to meet at Steve's house and make this a video.
This would be fine with me, and we'll drink the beer. Another thing. So there's that. It's on sale. Came out I think 2 days ago.
Yeah.
$14.99 plus whatever shipping is to your state. Amazon is doing something interesting now with their Amazon One palm reader, which they're now using at bars, and it's going to be first done at the Colorado Rockies baseball team.
Yeah.
To buy beers faster, proving you're 21. I don't know how much I like about this because you have to give Amazon your ID, both front and back, and then a palm print scan.
Yeah. Why not just the ID? Like, if you're so inebriated you can't get your wallet out and instead have to place either your palm or your ass cheek on a scanner, I think it's time to reevaluate life decisions. Number one, you're at a Colorado Rockies game. Number two, maybe sit this one out.
Yeah, I don't like this. And some other article I was reading is they're going to introduce this palm scanner to some Alexas. So if you want to buy alcoholic beverages online and be delivered, you just put your hand over it. Like, no, I don't want that because you're having my ID, you're having my fingerprint. And in all honesty, if an 18-year-old can hack DraftKings and steal a couple $100,000,
right?
My ID's in Amazon,
right? Like I'm all for making sure we follow the law to the letter of the law. Don't sell alcohol
21.
to minors.
Yeah, exactly.
There's certain provisions which come of that, which I'm like, there's already methods and methodologies involved in this whole alcoholic buying process that we could just skip straight past 1984.
Yeah.
Totally could. So why
I mean, I don't.
Why not just an ID?
Why not why not as you're putting the ticket into the game or the bar, bracelet, stamp. What's the difference? You know, right. I checked your ID.
Well, I'm gonna
it
lick
says
the
you're
back
21.
of my hand, and then I'll put the stamp on your hand, and now.
Yeah.
That works every time, by the way.
All the time. Yeah, exactly. Whatever. That I don't know. I didn't like that. I was just like, okay, that's just more data giving to Bezos.
Yeah.
So, all right. So, good news.
So,
fun news.
So, the crossover we've actually all been kind of hoping for.
It should be fun.
I kind of wanted this, not necessarily in this Star Trek series, but absolutely wanted to see it.
Yes, I wanted to see it, but or like a future, their own would have been great to see a live action just within their own series.
Yeah, but they're canon now. They're beyond canon. For those who don't know what we're talking about, we are in kind of a renaissance of Star Trek. Star Trek Picard season 3, chef's kiss. 10 out of 10. The worst episode was a 9 out of 10. The best was a 1701 out of 10. And you know what I'm talking about. Strange New Worlds, holy freaking crap. Absolutely amazing. All 10 episodes, absolute bangers. I don't care what you think of old Trek, new Trek, whatever. Amazing reintroduction to a lot of these characters. Lower Decks, kind of a sneaky underdog in the, we don't want Rick and Morty infesting our Trek. Yes, it's absurdist. Yes, it's out there. But the stories that it tells are still, quintessential universe canon Trek stories. And it has and the whole thing about it is it has no problem simply just, poking fun at its irregularities, insecurities.
And that's the whole point. That show literally just all the stuff, all of the messaging boards and everything has been arguing about for the past 30 years. Let's poke fun of it now. Let's talk about what they're saying and let's poke fun of it.
Dr. Crusher with that candle on that weird Scottish planet. Let's talk
exactly.
about that time that Tom Paris broke the transwarp barrier, but then Riker and the crew best of all things, did warp 13. Let's talk. Why didn't they turn into lizards? Why? There's so many other there's so many layers to this, and I love media that can make fun of itself retroactively, and just go with it and create their own media inside of that. Lower Decks has been amazing. Now, the two main characters on Star Trek Lower Decks have been Tawny Newsome, who plays Beckett Mariner, and Jack Quaid, who plays Chadwick? What's
Boyd?
His? Boimler.
Boimler. Yeah, Ensign Boimler.
Yeah, Chadward. I'm trying to think of his first name. It's weird.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Boimler, I think. Anyway, they're the two main characters. They're ensigns, lower decks on a lower tier, like basically a tugboat for the Federation on the USS Cerritos. And they get into all kinds of like weird situations that they're constantly kept in the dark. They don't really know what's going on. It's just
they're
great.
doing all the grunt work of second contacts,
right?
Type of thing. Oh, they're the one that has to finish signing the contracts and handing over the supplies,
right?
And they have if they don't get
they're also lower deckers on the ship. In which case, they're getting the worst jobs, like scrubbing the holodeck biofilters, which is now canon. That most of it's just
spunk.
Anyway, Trek fans of Lower Decks have been clamoring for Mariner and Boimler to make a live-action appearance on some Star Trek. I was kind of hoping they would end up being, like, just a random helmsman on
Picard Season 3.
Picard Season 3. Just like, we met up with the fleet and the Cerritos is here, and you've got Mariner and Boimler going,
Well, like, it would have been awesome in, sorry, spoiler, during the Federation Day. Yeah. The Cerritos was late or something like that.
Right.
But like at the very
to acknowledge that they were there and
they were there.
Anyway, there was a little bit of a Strange New Worlds crossover mentioned as like possible, and we all assumed that it would be happening on Lower Decks, where like Captain Pike and
holodeck episode type
holodeck episode, no. This image makes me unreally happy.
So it's more time travel episode possible. The latest trailer for Strange New Worlds Season 2 came out, and there were some surprise characters toward the middle and the end. And it was Ensign Boimler and Meredith.
Boimler called by name from Spock. Live long and prosper, Mr. Boimler. You live... also, and the...
So we got two quick glimpses of them in it. We don't know.
So Schatzberger, this isn't really spoiler. This is just trailer. Yes. So if you've watched the trailer, this is just there. Beckett Mariner and Ensign Boimler are now 100% live action canon, played by their voice actors.
Yes,
Tawny Newman and Jack Quaid.
Which they actually do look like their character. All they did was dye his hair. Honestly, my only critique was a little too purple, but nothing too bad.
Honestly, for someone who has purple hair, I like that it's a little bit subdued. I didn't even think it was purple/blue when I first saw the trailer. It's only like the very last image where the light is kind of shooting off of it, and it's just a little bit of a streak. I like it. I really do like it. But holy crap, I am unbelievably excited, not just for seeing these characters in live action played by their actual character and voice actors, but seeing Tawny Newsome and Jack Quaid get to like live out childhood fantasies. They're like, yeah, you're on the Enterprise, rock and roll.
Yeah. and so I'm betting this episode's probably not going to be the end all to be. It's obviously going to be just a lot of fan service. That episode will just be pure fan service. That's all. But you know what? If done correctly, there was plenty of that in Star Trek Picard 3.
Yeah. Season 3 of Picard proves that the right fan service with the right writers can absolutely work. And can still expand your universe, and can still write new character arcs, and can still expand on what you already know, as long as you respect the source material. And that's where I feel Discovery went wrong. Was I don't feel Discovery really honored the source material. And I kind of say the same thing about Enterprise, because all of a sudden it was like, we're the first Enterprise.
Right.
We've got Captain Pike on the original USS Enterprise, who set off on a 7-year or 5-year, deep space journey of exploration. Oh no, there was this Archer dude who came in, and we had a prototype Enterprise, which
he only did a 3-year mission, so
right.
This is technically the first 5 years.
Right. Don't retcon history on me.
Yeah.
It would have
been better. It would have been, although my thought process was, okay, I really enjoyed Strange New World Season 1 because I thought up to that time, best new Trek we got.
Yeah.
It was very traditional episodic. It was very, hey, we're going to do these, even like, what are those called? Like 3 scene, 3 area shots where they only have 3 sets.
Yeah.
And they keep reusing. It was great. They used practical effects when they did this fantasy style one of like, they transformed the Enterprise, but then they use like foam rocks.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is TOS to a T, which is great. I love that.
It was so phenomenal.
It was then Picard season 3 came out. So it just seems like, to me, things are getting better and better. And Star Trek to me has always been, you gotta give it 3 seasons. At least 3 seasons tells us everything is needed 3 seasons. And even if this season doesn't look great, I still think it's going to need another season. But with stuff like this, and the way it's going, I think we're going to be fine.
You say that, but Strange New Worlds was a 9 out of 10. Lower Decks for me has been a 9 out of 10. Like there's not an episode that comes up when Lower Decks is in my queue that I go, that's not a good one. Like every single episode of Lower Decks, I'll watch again. Every single episode of Strange New Worlds, I'll watch again. Picard season 3, I'll watch the whole thing 3 times over. Picard seasons 1 and 2, there's quite a few episodes I could do without, but at the same time, there's also some bangers in there.
I wouldn't mind editing 1 and 2 into one long, like, here's 10 episodes out of the 20 episodes there are.
Right, and I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, so. It's where I wouldn't drop an episode of season 3 though. Like season 3 was basically 3 excellent movie arcs, essentially.
They really did put it into 2 4-episode arcs and 1 2-episode arc, and it was masterfully done.
Yeah. So, but looking forward to when is it? June? So June 17th. So we're not too far out.
Yep.
What is that? 3 weeks? 1, 2, 3 weeks,
3 weeks
from now.
Yep.
So we'll get now. It won't be the first episode, obviously, but 3 weeks we'll be able to start talking. Hopefully, if there's some interesting stuff, we'll be talking a little bit more Star Trek news.
Yes.
We'll be fun. So yeah, go check that out if you're interested. If you like anything Star Trek, this is fun news. We love Star Trek.
I hope we get to see the Boimler scream on the big screen.
I bet we will. I
want that scream to happen just like once because it's amazing. Anyway, we are going to have to wrap it up here on Talking Heads. This has been episode 286, your once weekly live show for the latest in beer and tech news. Misread that. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, or check us out in podcast form over on Anchor.fm or wherever your favorite podcasts are found. If you want to support the channel, please head over to craftcomputing.store, pick yourself up some merch, start drinking like a pro, and if you want to follow us throughout the whole week, there's a couple of ways to do that. Number 1, social medias, all linked down below, Mastodon, Twitter, the like, or join the Patreon and join us on Discord, chat with us. Like actually us in real time.
You tag us, we will respond, no problem.
Right. We are very active in the Discord, and you will get exclusive access to that. It's not a public Discord. You have to buy into it, and that just assures that the trolls are stuck at the gates, and you get in a community that actually wants to be there. So think about it. Thank you all so much for watching. When in doubt, check notltt.store. That will also link you to the right location. And as always, we'll see you in the next video.
See you guys.
Cheers, everyone.